What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be covering everyone's favorite Marine, Koby, a leader that balances both control and aggression to take down its opponent. And to be completely honest, when I first started testing this leader, it just felt like something was missing to make this a competitive option, and I was really struggling to go against other opponents. But after making some adjustments and incorporating the new PRB2 Koby, which is going to be a game changer for this leader, I truly believe that we can go head to head with any leader out there. Which just goes to show you, just because a leader isn't popular doesn't mean you can't make it work. Now let's get started. And let me know in the comments, what leader do you want to see next? Thanks to everyone who recommended Koby, I had a lot of fun making this video. Koby's first leader ability gives rush to all of your sword characters, as they can attack other characters on the same turn they are played. This allows us to get aggressive, especially if our opponent has a rested card, as we can play and attack on the same turn. We can also combine this with a few different sword card effects that will allow us to attack our opponent's active characters. Our second leader ability provides us with really strong control and gives us solid matchups into decks that focus on removing or disrupting our board. Once per turn, when one of our Navy characters with 7,000 power or less would be removed from the field by one of our opponent's card effects, we can instead return 3 cards from our trash to the bottom of our deck and negate it. This is an amazing ability, and it means for the most part, our opponent will need to remove our characters with an attack, as any type of board removal we will be able to negate. Moving on to the core strategy, our first goal is to fill up our trash in order to activate our leader ability to protect our characters. The way we will do this is using low-cost Black Navy searchers, which allows us to add a card to our hand and then trash the rest. Our second goal is to get the most value out of the new Koby card, which should be releasing in the West in October. So why is this new card so important? Well, I believe it directly addresses two of the main issues that is holding back Koby from being a competitive leader as of right now. The first is our ability to defend our life, as this deck is very offense focused with many non-counter cards, and it can feel very difficult to defend our life with counter without shrinking our hand size in early turns. But with this Koby on the field, we're actually encouraged to counter out early and keep our hand size small, since every time he attacks, as long as we're at 6 cards or less in our hand, we will draw an additional card. The way I want you to think about this card is it is our Cavendish, allowing us to draw cards when it attacks, with the added bonus of having rush from our leader ability and being able to KO a character with a base power of 3k or lower. This is going to really improve our matchups against green leaders who use a lot of low-cost blockers such as Rosinante or Kushiro, but will also help against the new Rayleigh leader who uses a lot of 3k powered characters. Going back to the strategy, our third goal is to combine Helmeppo with Koby to be able to attack one of our opponent's active characters and get them off the board before they have a chance to do anything. Moving on to core cards, the first thing you'll notice is we are running a lot of searchers, and that's because we're looking to both fill up our trash and find our 4, 6, and 8 cost cards that we want to play on the following turns. To start things off, we have Peacock, which is our strongest searcher, as she allows us to look at the top 5 cards of our deck and add 1 Navy card to our hand. If you have multiple searches in your hand, but you're looking for one specific card, this is the best one to play, since all of our other search cards only allow us to search the top 3 cards of our deck rather than the top 5. The only downside is this doesn't fill up our trash at all, as the remaining cards are placed at the bottom of our deck rather than into our trash. She also has the activate main effect where you can trash her and give plus 1000 power to one of the other characters on the field. We then have the 1 cost Sengoku, who allows us to trash 2 Black Navy cards from our hand and then draw 3 cards. This is probably my least favorite of the searchers because we don't know what we're going to draw, so there are some scenarios where we discard 2 cards and we pick up 3 bricks. But it's still a 1 cost searcher that allows us to filter our hand and fill up our trash. We then have the 2 cost Branu, who is great for going second, as he allows us to look at the top 3 cards, add 1 to our hand, and then trash the rest. This can also be nice for a 3-down play, as we could play him in combination with one of our other 1 cost searcher cards. But we want to go second, so hopefully you're not in that scenario too often. And rounding off our searches, we have my favorite of the bunch, a 1 cost event that's effect works the same as Branu's. You may look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Navy card to your hand, and then trash the rest. But since this is also an event card, once you play it, it goes into your trash as well, meaning for 1 Dawn, you get 3 cards in your trash, and you can now benefit from your leader ability on following turns. This is a card we search for against opponents with removal, as on turn 1, it will allow us to fill up our trash, and meaning our following Navy characters are going to be protected from our opponent's abilities. We then have the 1 cost Ripper, who gains blocker as long as we have another Black Navy character on the field. I'm a big fan of this blocker, as I find we can gain a lot of value for only 1 Dawn getting a blocker on the field, and it's still difficult for our opponent to remove, as we'll protect him with our leader ability. Moving on to counter for a second, the most important one that everyone needs to run 4 of is this 1 cost Aramaki, who has the activate main ability that allows you to trash this card, target one of your Navy characters, and they can attack active characters on this turn. Then trash 2 cards from the top of your deck. This is a great way to benefit from our cards having rush, as even if our opponent doesn't have a rested character, we could play down one of our sword characters and then attack their active characters if we combine them with this effect. We then have a bunch of other Navy 2k counters to choose from, but none of them are that impactful, and it's really going to be a preference of which ones you want to use. The next 2k counter is Prince Groose, who has the 1 attacking ability that your opponent cannot activate blockers with 2000 power or less for the remainder of the turn. And since he's a sword character, our leader gives him rush, meaning as long as your opponent had a rested character, for 1 Dawn you could play him and shut off all of their low cost blockers for the remainder of the turn. We then have the 6 cost X Drake, another 2k counter, and one that you can target with our 6 cost Helmeppo that I'll cover later on. This can be nice if you don't already have a Koby or Hibari in your trash. Since he has counter, you can use him to deflect an attack and put him into your trash, and then on the following turn, use Helmeppo, bring him out, and at least get a 7k swing, which is better than nothing. And finally, you can choose between any Black Navy counter, which just gives us more targets to filter with Sengoku as we use his ability to target 2 Black Navy characters, trash them, and then draw 3 cards. And finally, moving on to characters that we plan to play, we start things off with a 3-cost Borsellino, who has the activate main effect. You may rest this character. Up to one of your Navy leaders or characters can attack active characters during this turn. This card can be useful, especially if you're forced to go first, as it gives you something to play in your 3-Dawn turn, but I think most of the time we plan to go second and use our 4-Dawn to play either Koby or Kuzan. And speaking of, we have the 4-cost 5k power Koby, a sword and navy character, who has the one attacking effect to KO one of our opponent's characters with a base power of 3k, and draw a card as long as we're at 6 cards or less in hand. This is an amazing new addition, giving us both control over the board, a rush ability, and increasing our hand size, meaning we can counter out each turn and not feel punished for it, since we'll continuously draw cards with this effect. And his second ability will make it easier to defend, as on our opponent's turn he gains 1000 power, making him a 6k power character. We then have the 4-cost Kuzan, which I think is the best option until this Koby is released. On play, you trash 3 cards from the top of your deck, meaning he's instantly protected from effects even if we didn't play any other card or searcher to fill up our trash. He then has the one attacking ability. We can target one of our other characters or leaders, and they can attack active characters for this turn. This is another great way to control the board, and a great thing to chain out, since on our 6-Dawn turn, we can play out either Helmeppo and Hibari, and they'll be able to attack active characters if we attack with Kuzan first. It's important to note that he himself is not a sword character, meaning he will not be able to attack an opponent's rested character on the same turn he is played. Rounding out our 4 costs is the 1k power Doll, a blocker with the on-play effect. We may trash 1 card from our hand. If our leader is Navy, we can give up to one of our opponent's characters minus 6,000 power for this turn. This card can be useful for both establishing a blocker on the field while also being able to target one of your opponent's high-powered characters, as with minus 6k power attack, it's going to be very easy to remove it with the other cards we already have on the field. We then have the 5-cost 6k power Hibari, who's both a Navy and sword character, who has the on-play effect to give one of our opponents minus 2,000 power during this turn. This can be a great way to target one of our opponent's powerful characters, as on play we'll bring them down by 2k power, but we can also combine this with our leader to take out 2 characters at once if our opponent had 1 rested and 1 active character. This is because of her second ability. When attacking, she gains 1000 power, and then your leader can attack an active character for the rest of the turn. So let's say our opponent had both an active and a rested Zoro on the field. We could play Hibari and then give minus 2000 power to the active Zoro, bring them down to 3. Then, since Hibari is a sword character, she could attack the rested Zoro for 7k and grant our leader the ability to attack an active character after this. So on this turn, we've threatened both their rested and active characters with an attack that is 2k over their current power. We then have the 6-cost Helmeppo, and despite the emergence of the new PRB2 Koby, this still remains the MVP of this leader. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, draw 1 card, and then play 1 sword type character with a cost of 8 or less from your trash other than Helmeppo. Then, at the end of this turn, place 1 character played out by this effect at the bottom of its owner's deck. Now there are a few different sword characters we can target, but our best play is going to be the 8-cost Koby, who has the on-play effect that one of your characters can attack your opponent's active characters for the rest of this turn. Which means even though he's leaving our field at the end of this turn, at 6 Dawn we can use him to target one of our opponent's characters and get them off the board or force out a lot of counter. And since we plan to cheat him out at 6 Dawn, our opponent should only have a 5-cost character on the field, meaning he'll likely have a large power gap over them and be able to take them out with his attack. On top of this, he also has the 1 attacking ability that you may return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck, and either one of your leaders or one of your characters gains 1000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. You could always use this on Koby himself, making him a 10k power swing without any Dawn attached, or give it to your leader and make them a 6k power leader until the end of your opponent's next turn. So at 6 Dawn, we're not only establishing a 7k power character on the field that could attack a rested character if need be, but also this 8k power character that will knock out one of their active characters before being sent to the bottom of our deck. We can also use this ability at 7 or 8 Dawn, still comboing out Helmeppo into Koby, but then having a few Dawn left over to either attach or play out another character. And there's something very important I want to talk about right here, which is a way to recycle our Kobys and use them multiple times. Because we play so many 1-cost searchers, when we reach our 7 or 8 Dawn turn, there's a good chance that we're already going to have 2 to 3 characters on the field. And so if you use this combo, Helmeppo into Koby, and you had 5 characters on the field and still a few Dawn remaining, what you can actually do is play out an additional character, replace the Koby, and send him into your trash rather than him being bottom decked at the end of your turn. This means you could use the same Koby for multiple Helmeppos if you have them in your hand. And since this on-play effect begins with trashing a card, this means you don't have to have Koby already in your trash. As long as he's in your hand, you'll be able to play him out with this effect. And while he's our best target, he's not the only one, as we could also bring out the 5-cost Hibari or the 7-cost Koby, which I'm going to talk about now. The 7-cost 7k power Koby has minus 3000 power during your opponent's turn, but has a very powerful when attacking effect that if your leader has the Navy type, your leader's original power becomes 7000 until the end of your opponent's next turn. If you can play him and attack on the same turn, you'll be able to swing 7k with both him and your leader. The only downside is on your opponent's turn, he will then be 4000 power and very easy to remove. But being a 7k power leader can be very useful, making it easier to deflect attacks, and you can also combine this with the 8 cost Koby to make your leader technically 8000 power till the end of your opponent's next turn. And finally, we have the 8 cost 9k power Monkey D Dragon, which is the only character that we run that actually has Rush, being able to attack our opponent's life on the same turn that he has played. He also allows us to give 2 Rested Dawn to one of our leaders or characters, meaning this can be a great card to finish off games, as we can play him down for 8 Dawn, and then swing 7k with leader and 9k with him. There are also a few red events you can choose to include. When I was testing, I found that they can feel a bit clunky, but again, you might find more success than I did. The first is Excalibur, where for 2 Dawn, you can give 2 of your opponents minus 2000 power for the turn, and then give one of your Navy characters plus 1000 power. We then have the 4 cost Mulligan, which allows you to give minus 5000 power to one of your opponent's characters, and then if you have a character with 6000 power or more, KO one of your opponent's characters with 2k power or less. Or in simpler terms, you can KO one of their 7k power characters by using this effect. We then have the 6 cost Honesty Impact, which allows you to give minus 4000 power to one of your opponent's characters, and then KO one of their characters with 6k power or less. Now my favorite thing about this was this trigger, as it allows you to KO one of your opponent's characters with 6k power or less. Now while I do believe this leader is going to play best with a new PRB2 Koby, if you want to play him right now, I'd recommend this starting deck list for OP11. Moving to OP12, I think this is a good starting deck list to let you try out the different characters and then start to make adjustments as you make this leader your own. I would say that this leader has a lot of flexibility with deck building, so you're really going to need to just start playing games and figuring out what cards you want to include and what cards you want to cut. But first, let's talk about what I wouldn't cut, and that's running 4 copies of the 4 cost Koby, 8 cost Koby, and 6 cost Helmeppo, as these are the core cards of our deck and really what we base our entire strategy off. But after that, you can really make any adjustments, as a lot of these cards you can run either 1 to 3 copies depending on what you're looking for. So starting with 2k counters, as I mentioned before, include Aramaki, and then it really doesn't matter, it's whatever you prefer and what cards you want to include that are 2k counters. As far as blockers go, I'm a big fan of the 1 cost Ripper, but I would say you're probably going to choose between either running him or Doll, or some combination of both of them. But I would say we're not looking to run more than 4 to 6 blockers, so you can include a combination of both, or just run 4 of one or 4 of the other. It's really going to depend on what you like. And you don't need to run the 4 cost Kuzan now, since our Koby is the preferred choice in most options, but I do like that it gives us a little more consistency, as we have 6 cards to look for rather than 4 on our 4 Dawn curve. And while I felt that 2 copies of Habari, the 7 cost Koby, and 8 cost Dragon was the right number for me, perhaps you only want to run 2 of them and bump it up to 3 copies, or run 4 copies of them if you really enjoy playing one of these cards. I'm also only running 3 copies of Branu and Sengoku, and this was so I could still include a few of my other sword characters that I wanted to, but perhaps you don't find that necessary and you bump them both up to 4 copies. As you can see, I feel like we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to deck building around this leader, so feel free to try out new or unique cards and see if it works for you. Moving on to the Dawn curve, we'll start with going second, as that's what we prefer to do when playing this leader. At 2 Dawn, we'll play a combination of our 1 cost searchers, such as a Peacock, Sengoku, or the 1 cost event, or we can play the 2 cost Branu. In my opinion, the strongest combination is Peacock plus our event, as this will get 3 cards in our trash and allow us to look 5 cards into our deck for either Helmeppo or another card we want to play on following turns. And remember, if you aren't expecting to play Kuzan on your 4 Dawn turn and instead are playing with the PRB2 Koby, it's really important that we get 3 cards into our trash to be able to protect him on the following turn. After you end your first turn, something that's important to keep track of is whether or not you're going to benefit from Koby's attacking ability on your next turn. As an example, let's say your opponent's on their 3 Dawn turn and they just played and activated Bonnie's ability to add a card to their hand. This means that you now know you can play this Koby and attack with him on the same turn, since your opponent is going to have a rested character. This means if your hand size is 6 cards, you need to counter if they attack your life, as if you don't, you're going to have too many cards in your hand and not be able to benefit from his drawing ability. This is because if you currently have 6 cards, if they hit you with a life, you'll be at 7 and then you'll draw for turn, meaning you're now at 8 cards. Then, when you play down your Koby, you'll be 7 cards in hand, meaning even when you attack with him, you won't draw a card. So in reality, you can counter for free because you're going to add that same card back to your hand. Going back to the curve, at 4 Dawn, we want to play this new PRB Koby or the 4 cost Kuzan if you're playing an OP11. And if you didn't have either in your hand, you'll play more of your searchers to look for Helmeppos and Kobys for the following turns. At 6 Dawn, we want to start using our Helmeppo combo, playing him out, activating his ability, and then bringing Koby onto the field to attack one of your opponent's active characters. And if you didn't have Helmeppo, you could play out Habari in combination with one of your 1 cost searchers or the 1 cost blocker, or play another 4 cost Kuzan or Koby to further establish your board. At 8 Dawn, you could continue this strategy using Helmeppo into Koby, or you can now just play Koby by itself without cheating it out with Helmeppo's effect. So which one should you do? Helmeppo into Koby or Koby by himself? The answer lies in how much power you need to remove your opponent's character. As an example, let's say your opponent ramps slightly ahead and they have an 8k powered Katakuri on the field. If you just play the Koby, you'll be able to target this Katakuri with a 10k power swing as 9k base power plus his 1k power boost from when he attacks. Now 2k power over is a great number for threatening a card, meaning your opponent will have to discard 2 cards or let this card go. But if your opponent had 5 or 6 cards in their hand, there's a good chance that they're going to be able to counter out of this. So if you really wanted that card gone, you can instead play Helmeppo to bring out Koby, and then you'll still have 2 active Dawn, meaning rather than 10k, you can swing 12k, and force them to spend 3 cards from their hand if they're going to save them. Of course, the obvious answer is bringing out 2 cards is better than 1, but depending on the board and what your opponent's doing, sometimes having a 9k body out there can be very helpful. If you do use this combo and you have 5 characters on the field, remember that you can play one of your 1 costs over Koby after he attacks, putting him back in your trash and preventing him from being bottom decked. At 10 Dawn, our strategy remains the same. We're using the combo Helmeppo with our other sword characters to remove our opponent's board and get aggressive and go for game. And with the remaining Dawn we still have up, we can attach it to our leaders and characters already on the board, play out more searchers to improve our hand, or use the 1 cost Ripper to defend our life. You can also use the 8 cost Dragon to go for game, as on play he'll be a 9k power character with Rush and giving 2 rested Dawn to one of your characters or leaders. We won't choose to go first, but if we are, our strategy remains the same. It just takes out an extra turn to get out the cards we want to play. At 1 Dawn, we will simply play one of our 1 cost searchers and look for cards that we're going to play on following turns. At 3 Dawn, we could play Brand New in addition to one of our 1 cost searchers, or if you're running the 3 cost Borsalino, you could put him down at this time. At 5 Dawn, you could play the 4 cost Koby or 5 cost Hibari to attack one of your opponent's rested characters, or develop your board with the 4 cost Kuzan. At 7 Dawn, you now have access to Helmeppo combos once again, as you can play him out and bring out the 8 cost Koby, or you can simply play out the 7 cost promo Koby instead. At 9 or 10 Dawn, you'll have access to all your characters, so you can continue to play out Helmeppo combos or bring out one of your 8 cost characters instead. When starting a game, our ideal hand consists of a low cost searcher, the 4 cost Koby or Kuzan, as well as the 6 cost Helmeppo. This is because the first 3 turns are very important for our momentum, as we want something to play on our 2, 4, and 6 Dawn curve. But because we run so many searchers, there's a very good chance we're going to find the pieces we need later on in the match, so I'd say it's important to have something to play on your first and second turn to establish your board early. But you don't need all these pieces, so as long as you have a low-cost searcher and either Koby or Helmeppo in your hand, you should be good to go. And against blue, black, or yellow leaders that have access to early game removal, I like to prioritize this 1-cost event, as on turn 1 it'll get 3 cards in my trash and protect my Koby on the following turn. Koby's first strength is his board control, as not only can we attack our opponent's active characters and remove them before they have a chance to do anything, but we also protect our own characters with his leader ability. This translates into a fun and aggressive playstyle, as our sword characters have a pseudo rush and can remove our opponent's active characters before they have a chance to do anything. And finally, we can find insane value from the PRB2 Koby, as we protect him from our opponent's removal effects and can draw an extra card with him for every turn we keep him on the field. While this has improved with the new PRB2 Koby, this deck can feel inconsistent if we don't find our pieces on our 4 or 6 Dawn curves. For both games today, I'll be playing in OP12, as I want to highlight the PRB2 Koby and how it's changing this leader. Game number 1 is against Blue Purple Luffy, and for some reason my screen recorder didn't get the bottom 1%, so the cards are a little cut off, but I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And since my starting hand included 2 new Kobys, 1 Kuzan, a Searcher, and a 2k counter, I felt comfortable that this was strong enough to begin the game. And this is a leader where I need 3 cards in my trash, as many Blue Purple Luffys run the 5-cost God Thread, which KOs a 5-cost character and then allows them to ramp 1 Dawn. And to start our 2 Dawn turn, we pick up exactly what I want to see. The 1-cost event allows me to add a 2k counter to my hand, and then I have 3 cards in my trash, so I know once I play Koby on the following turn, he'll be protected. And with 1 Dawn remaining, I've already achieved my goal of getting 3 cards into my trash, meaning I don't have to play this 1-cost Sengoku, and I could in fact play something else. I decided to play the 1-cost Aramaki, as if my opponent plays the 3-cost Zoro on the following turn, I'll be able to play my 4-cost Koby and attack with him on the same turn. He then swings 6k at life, but since I only have 5 cards in hand, I don't need to counter, as I can still benefit from Koby's drawing ability on the following turn. He then plays down the 3-cost Dofi blocker, who on play allows him to look at the top 5 cards of his deck and rearrange them in any order. This isn't what I was expecting, but it's still a target for my Koby to attack with on the next turn. So I play down the Koby, activate Aramaki's ability to allow him to attack an active character, and swing 5k at the 4k power blocker. And since I only had 6 cards in my hand, I draw a card when I attack. This gets the KO, and then I end my turn since I can't do anything else. My opponent then activates God Thread to ramp a card and try and KO our Koby, but luckily since we have 3 cards in our trash, we can negate it. He then swings 6k at life, and we counter with a 2k, as remember we want to keep our hand size small so we can continuously benefit from Koby's effect. We're now at 6 Dawn, and we can play Helmeppo, but if you look at our opponent's board, you'll notice that they don't have any characters that we want to remove. And while it would be nice to bring out a 6-cost 7k power character, if we're not bringing out Koby or another sword card with his effect, it's kind of a waste of a turn, since we want to use this to remove one of his characters or at least threaten them with an attack. And so I decided that the only thing better than 1 PRB Koby drawing you a card every turn is 2 PRB Kobys drawing you a card every turn. So I drop him down and then use my 2 remaining Dawn to swing 6k with both my Koby and my leader. And since I only had 6 cards in my hand, my Koby once again draws me an additional card. My first attack brings him down to 6 life, and then my second attack he counters out of with a 1k Zoro. I then end my turn and he begins his 8 Dawn turn, meaning on the following turn he'll activate his leader ability. He starts things off with a 6k swing at my Koby, and I use a 1k counter to get him out. He then spends all remaining Dawn on the 8-cost Katakuri. And while I drew another one for turn, so I would have been able to play him anyways, this is why I was holding on to my original Helmeppo, as I want to play him out when I can threaten one of my opponent's characters with an attack. So then I play Helmeppo, trash the Koby, play the Koby from my trash, and then use Koby's on-play ability to give him the ability to attack active characters on this turn. And now I have a decision to make. I can attach all my remaining Dawn to Koby, use his when attacking ability, and swing 12k at this Katakuri, all but guaranteeing that I take him out. But if I use all my Dawn this way, my remaining characters and leader that can attack his leader will all be at 5k power, meaning I won't be able to do anything else on this turn. And noticing he only has 5 cards in his hand, I want to be as efficient as possible and get the most amount of resources out of his hand to pressure him. So I attach only one Dawn to Koby, making him a 10k power swing, and then using his when attacking ability to give my leader 1000 power until the end of my opponent's next turn. This way, even if he discards 2 cards to counter, I'll be able to threaten him with 2 more 6k swings on this turn. I was mainly doing this to deplete his resources, but surprisingly enough the attack goes through, meaning he likely has a lot of events in his hand and he might not have that much counter. I then swing 6k with Koby, drawing yet another card, and bringing him down to 2 life, reconfirming that he likely has very little counter in his hand. I then swing 6k with my leader, and he counters with a 2k Usohachi, revealing more information as he likely doesn't have a 1k counter in his hand. So I think we've done a pretty good job with developing our board, but as everyone knows, Blue-Purple Luffy becomes online at 8 Dawn, so this is really where things are going to heat up as he can start chaining out 9-cost characters. He starts by adding the OP06 Sanji to his hand, which is the 9-cost that brings out another 9-cost, so we likely can expect that to come out this turn. He then swings 6k at our rested Koby, but we're not going to give him up that easy, and so we'll counter out with our Sengoku. He then plays the 9-cost Sanji, which reveals the top card of his deck and brings out the 9-cost Linlin, allowing him to trash 1 card, heal 1 life from the top of his deck, and then he tries to send our Helmeppo to the bottom of our life, which against other leaders would be very disruptive, but lucky for us we have 3 cards in our trash and we protect him with our leader ability. We're now at 10 Dawn, and we could use another Helmeppo into Koby combo to control the board and take out another one of his cards. But something important to remember about this leader is every turn he wants to play a 9-cost character and then leave 1 Dawn up for Gum Gum Giant. This means if you get a 9k body on the field, it's very difficult for them to remove without disrupting their game plan as they want to spend all of that Dawn. And if they don't invest Dawn in removing him, this means they'll only be able to swing 9k, which is very easy for us to counter out of. And finally, based on the information we've gathered on previous turns, it seems like he's struggling with 6 and 7k swings as he doesn't have much actual 1ks and 2ks in his hand. So rather than doing one big swing, I think by spreading it out and hitting him with many different cuts, it's going to deal the most damage to this leader. And so with that in mind, my goal is to hit him as many times as possible rather than as hard as possible. So I start things off with a 9k swing at his active Charlotte Linlin. I then plan to use his ability to make my leader 6k, and then I realized I only had 1 card in my trash, so this is a pretty big mistake by me, as I should have played this 1-cost event first. But oh well, I'll play it right afterwards. And if you noticed, he countered with another 2k, once again revealing that he doesn't have any 1ks in his hand. I then add Peacock to my hand, and with 1 remaining Dawn, I play her out, activate her ability, and find a doll, which I add to my hand. I think this can be useful on following turns, as minus 60 power is going to make it really easy for me to remove one of their big bodies. But we're not done with this turn. Next thing, I trash Peacock, giving 1000 power to my Koby, and then swinging 6k at his leader and drawing another card. And if you're keeping track, I believe that's either my 4th or 5th card that I've added to my hand with these new Kobys, bringing him down to 1 life before I swing 7k with Helmeppo, and he counters with a 1-cost event. We then end our turn, but with 7 cards in hand and 4 characters on the board, we're feeling pretty solid. He then adds a Gum Gum Giant to his hand with his leader ability, and he starts things off by playing the 4-cost Pudding, wiping out our great hand and bringing us down to 5 cards. The good news is we have 3 2k counters. He then attaches 3 Dawn to Sanji and swings 12k at our rested Koby. And with my newfound abundance of 2ks in my hand, I decide to counter out with 2 2ks. He then attaches 1 Dawn to Linlin and swings 10k at my rested Helmeppo, who I allowed to get KO'd since I wouldn't be able to counter out anyways. He then attaches 1 remaining Dawn, I think he was hoping I didn't have any other counter in my hand, and goes to remove my rested Koby. So of course I'm going to counter out with yet again another 2k counter. And so he leaves 1 Dawn up and returns it over to me, and I now have a 1-cost Ripper, 5-cost Habari, and a 2k counter in hand. I'm not exactly sure how I want to play this, if I want to go for some board control or try and go for game, so I figured before I do anything, I might as well attack with my Kobys and add 2 more cards to my hand, as I might find a Monkey D-Dragon or something else that will make it easier for me to go for game. But of course I don't want to attack into nothing, I still want him to force to use counter, so I swing 6k and draw a 1-cost Searcher, which actually takes the life, bringing him down to 0, and I figured it's a change in plans, let's go for game. And even with 6 cards in hand, I believe it's going to be very difficult for him to stop a 10k and then 15k swing, so I start things off with 10 with my Koby, forcing out the Gum Gum Giant, having him return 2 Dawn, trash a card, and then draw 2 cards before gaining 4000 power. And the game actually ends here, he bricked his hand and was unable to draw anything good with Gum Gum Giant. Moving on to game 2, we're against the Silver's Rayleigh, a very popular leader in OP12 and one that we have a great matchup into. This is because his deck is filled with 3k power and lower characters, one that we can remove with our Koby whenever he attacks. And since that Koby is very important to winning this matchup, I mulligan to try and find him, and while I don't, I do find a 1-cost Searcher, who is then able to bring him into our hand. And if you notice, our opponent chose the order, so we are unfortunately going first, as you know we like to go second. Our opponent then plays the 2-cost Boa Hancock, who on play allows you to look at top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Monkey D. Luffy or red event, and add it to your hand. And they add this 1-cost Straw Hat Searcher. We then start a 3 Dawn turn, adding a Sengoku to our hand, but the only cards we can trash to activate his effect are Helmeppo and Ripper, 2 cards that I want to keep in my hand. And with nothing to play, I swing 7k at life, taking the first one, and then dropping down Ripper, who isn't a blocker just yet, but I figured will become useful in later turns. Our opponent then starts his 4 Dawn turn by activating his leader ability, which allows him to reveal 2 red events and then give plus 2000 power to one of his characters with base power 4000 or less. This makes Boa a 5k power character, who then swings at life, and I counter out of with a 1-cost Sengoku. He then plays the best card in his deck, the 4-cost Monkey D. Luffy, who on play allows him to reveal 2 red events, play down a character with 3k power or less, and then give 1 rested Dawn to his leader, who then attacks us, bringing us down to 3 life. But since our opponent has a rested character and we have PRP2 Koby in our hand, we're about to change the tempo of this game. I play him onto the field, and he has Rush, being a sword character, allowing him to attack the rested Boa while activating his when attacking ability to draw us a card and then KO the active Sanji, providing us with just ridiculous utility: Rush, draw power, and removing 2 cards. Or so I thought. My opponent decides to try and counter out and save this Boa. Or they just accidentally double clicked. That's happened to me before. But either way, we get the knockout, play down Peacock to add another 2k counter to our hand, and then swing 5k, bringing him down to 3 life. Our opponent then starts his turn playing Observation Hockey, a 0-cost event that attaches 1 active Dawn to his leader, then allows him to look at the top 4 cards of his deck and add either 1 red event or a 3-cost or higher character. He finds another 4-cost Luffy, so he adds him to his hand and then brings him out, activating his effect to reveal 2 red events, bringing out the 1-cost Buggy, who has its own on-play effect to look at the top 5 cards and add another red event to his hand, and he adds another 0-cost event. The event he adds is called To Never Doubt That Is Power, and this is one that you want to keep an eye out for when playing against this leader. This is because during his turn, he can activate it, attach 2 active Dawn to his leader, who now becomes unblockable for the rest of the turn. And if you notice with this leader, all the new 0-cost events either work during his turn, as he can attach an active Dawn and activate an effect, or he can just use them as a 2k counter. But getting back to the game, he starts things off with a 6k swing from the Luffy, and I decide to 2k out since I expect a 7 or 8k swing from his leader on the following attack. He then decides to swing 7k at life, which I think is another benefit of Koby being 6k power on our opponent's turn, as he's likely worried I have another 2k counter in my hand and I would have just used that if he went for him instead. Now he could have attached 1 more to leader and swung 8k at my rested Koby, but he wanted to leave 1 Dawn up in order to be able to activate Conqueror's Hockey. This card works as a counter, giving 2000 power to one of his leaders or characters, but if he also rests 1 Dawn when he activates it, it gives minus 1000 power to all of my own characters and leaders during my turn. And for my 7 Dawn curve, I'm going to play Helmeppo into Koby to threaten all of his characters. So I play Koby from my trash and give him the ability to attack his active characters. I then swing 9k at the 6k Luffy, and since I know he's going to activate Conqueror's Hockey, I decide to give my leader plus 1000 power so I'll be able to get more effective hits. And what do I mean by this? Well, when he activates Conqueror's Hockey, both my leader and Koby are going to go down to 4k power. But if I give my leader a 1k power boost and then use Peacock on the field to give Koby a power boost, I'll be able to make them both 5k again and at least force a counter card from his hand when they attack. And so I boost my leader to 6k, and he activates Conqueror's Hockey, boosting his Luffy up to 8k, bringing minus 1000 power to all of my different characters, and then activating another Conqueror's Hockey to boost him up to 10k, surviving the hit. This causes a slight change in my plan, since I really don't want him to have 2 Luffys on the field for next turn, so instead of boosting up my 4-cost Koby, I activate Peacock's effect and bring Helmeppo back up to 7k. And while I could attach my 1 remaining Dawn, make it an 8k swing, and basically guarantee a knockout or force 2 cards from hand, I figured I wanted to leave 1 Dawn up and get another Ripper on the board, having 2 blockers to protect my own board on the following turn. And since he just used 2 2k counter events in his hand, I wasn't sure if he either had another or wanted to use one, considering he'd be down to 3 cards. So we swing 7k, and this is enough to get the knockout. I then swing 4k with Koby, and while this won't threaten a life, it does allow me to KO his Buggy and add another card to my hand. I then swing 5k with Leader, bringing him down to 2 life before using my 1 remaining Dawn to play out Ripper. He then starts his 8 Dawn turn, playing out a 1-cost Searcher that allows him to add a Straw Hat card to his hand, and he finds another Monkey D. Luffy, which he plays out, activating its effect to also bring out the 3-cost Sanji. He then attaches 1 Dawn to Leader and then activates his Leader ability. It doesn't require 1 Dawn, he just chose to do things in this order. And he gives 2000 power to the Luffy. He then attaches another Dawn to Luffy, and it's now at 9k power, and the reason for this is as long as he has 2 Dawn attached to either characters or leaders, his Luffys gain 2000 power while they're on the field. I use one of my Rippers to block it, and then he activates his event that prevents his leader from being blocked. So I can't use Ripper to protect my Koby here, and I don't have a 2k counter in my hand, so I'm not going to use 3 cards to defend him, so I'll let him go, but it's not the end of the world since I have 2 more in my hand. I then start my 9 Dawn turn, and while I do have a Peacock Searcher that I could use to look for either Helmeppo or Koby, the combo that I'm thinking about requires all 9 Dawn, so if I miss on this search, it's really going to disrupt this turn. And while playing out the 7-cost Koby would be nice, making my leader 7k power base, this would only allow me to target his rested character, leaving both the Sanji and Monkey D. Luffy for a counterattack on the following turn. And with only 3 cards in his hand, even if I'm only attacking at equal or slightly higher power, there's a good chance I'm going to get some KOs here as he's running very low on resources. So I start things off with the 5-cost Habari, who on play allows me to give minus 2000 power to one of his characters, and I choose his active Luffy. This knocks him down to 4k power, meaning if my leader attacks him with 0 Dawn invested, I'll still be able to threaten a knockout. I then swing 7k at his rested Luffy, and when she attacks, Habari grants my leader the ability to attack active characters. He counters with one of his 2k 0-cost events. Now I like the idea of playing out the 4-cost Koby, but he can only attack a rested character, meaning if I KO this Luffy right now with my Helmeppo, he won't be able to activate his effect. And so before I need to make a decision on that, I can first attack his active Luffy with my leader to either force out another 2k counter or get the knockout. And with this getting the KO, I'm now comfortable playing out this Koby because even if I don't KO his Luffy, when I attack with him, I am going to get the KO on Sanji and bring him down to 1 character on the field. So I drop down the Koby, attack the rested Luffy, KO the Sanji, and draw a Monkey D. Dragon. And he doesn't need to counter since it's only a 5k swing into a 6k character. And to finish off the turn, we attack with Helmeppo, which forces out another 2k counter from his hand. We then end our turn, and this opponent does run a lot of rush characters, but with 5k counter, 2 life, and a blocker on the field, I am fairly confident that we can survive whatever he has to throw at us. He starts things off by attaching 2 Dawn to his leader, and then dropping down the 3-cost 5k power Zoro with rush. He then attaches 1 Dawn and swings 6k, and I use 2 1k counters to get out. He then swings 6k with Luffy, and since he didn't use his leader ability, I know he doesn't have any events in his hand, or at least doesn't have 2 of them. Now I could counter out of this, and I would have if I was at 1 life, as I'd be worried about his unblockable ability, but at 2 life remaining I was willing to take the hit, as I knew I would still have other counter and could use my blocker for a following attack if he had another Zoro or a Kid and Killer in hand. We then add a 2k counter to our hand, which is nice but not needed, as we can just use Ripper to block the next attack and then go down to 0 life if he drops out another Zoro or whatever other card. I think our opponent realizes this, as before I counter our block he forfeits the game and we get another win. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this video has given you everything you need to know to start taking over games with this underrated leader. And if you like this kind of content, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Now I'll catch you next time.